Right. Okay. If I could have your attention, please, councillors. Welcome to the meeting of Cowra Shire Council on the 26th of February. And we'll start with the introduction. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993, Cowra Council is recording this meeting and will upload the recording to Council's website. By speaking at this meeting, you agree to being recorded and having that recording published in the public domain. Please ensure that when you speak at council meetings, you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Cowra Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we gather, the Wiradjuri people, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. We have attendance. We have an apology from Councillor Nikki Kiss, who is ill, and no other apologies or leave of absence. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Downey, Councillor Watt, thank you. Just anyhow, councillors and staff, please indicate in relation to any interest you need to declare, what report item you are declaring an interest in, whether the interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary, and what is the nature of the interest. Thank you. Have we got any? Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 3.6, 3.8 and 7.1 as a family member is involved in putting together the application, and I will leave the room.
Thank you. Any further declarations? I'll make a declaration of pecuniary interest in item 7.1, the DA for Blothbury Road, as I live next door. Anyone else? That's it. Okay. We'll move on to no presentations, no public forum, confirmation of minutes. I now take a motion to confirm the minutes, the ordinary council meeting held on the 22nd of January. Councillor Judy Smith, Councillor Peter Wright. Thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We'll go to the General Committee recommendations on Monday the 12th of February. And we have, sorry if I can, page 24.
Just a question, please.
Mm-hmm.
Was that previous resolution for the ordinary meeting and the confidential ordinary meeting, or just the ordinary meeting? Was it for both? Right, that's all right. I didn't hear the both, that's all. Thank you.
It's for both. So I need a mover and a seconder of the draft minutes of the CBD committee. Councillor Delbo. Councillor Downing. Thank you. And you'd like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just very quickly wanted to point out that since we held this meeting, the workshop date has changed. It's now this Saturday, the 2nd of March. We have registered at currently 155 people to attend. That is amazing, and I just want to thank those that have come forward to register, and I look forward to hearing their ideas and working with them on Saturday and going forward. I'd also like to thank the staff for the extra work that they've performed in such a short time frame to make this event a success. And we'll see where it goes on the weekend, but I look forward to the workshop and allowing people to use their voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Downing.
Just to reiterate what Councillor Delbo has said, that it's amazing we have so many people who want to be in the room to let us know their thoughts and hopefully help us plan as we go forward with the consultant. And just that this committee is very vibrant and there's a lot of young people on it and they are the future. So hopefully they're going to be in the room on the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Downey. Any further comments? If that's the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The Sculpture Park Master Plan on page 24. The recommendation there from the Director of Corporate Services, Councillor Delbo. And I have a second, Councillor Smith, Councillor Judy Smith, Councillor Delbo.
Thank you. Through the chair, it's a three-part recommendation. I have spoken about this item a few times now, but I just actually today sort of had a light bulb moment of how important this recommendation is going forward. Council started this project back in August 2016, and it must be very rewarding for the councillors that are here tonight that were around the table at that time for the long-term vision that you have had in the site. We have 11 sculptures in total to date, with partnerships with the Japanese Garden, Macquarie University and the Sydney Opera House, and I look forward to seeing where that goes in the years to come. And I got excited because we have many famous sculpture trails, not only in Australia, but in the world. And I just did a very quick Google this afternoon. Obviously, we have Sculptures by the Sea in Sydney, starting or ending at Bondi. We then have Hillview Farm, which is in the Southern Highlands, and they are only open for a short period of time. If you head over to Western Australia, we have a brand new one called Giants of Mandurah, where they are showcasing wood and the impact on the environment. And more closely to home, we have Animals on Bikes at Come Knock, and that has been around for at least 10-15 years, and Sculptures down the Lachlan, which starts at Forbes and goes out to Condobolin. No, wrong way.
Yeah, Condobolin.
Yeah, Condobolin.
Yep.
So, and all of those trails would be reporting an increase of people, residents and visitors accessing and interacting with culture and art, to the point where we have the very, very famous Gibbs Farm in New Zealand, that, you know, to get a ticket to see that is as tight as getting a Taylor Swift ticket. So good luck with that. So yeah, I'm very happy to be moving this tonight. I think it's the beginning of a very grand continuation of this site. It's a very important site for Cowra. It fits in obviously with the Peace Precinct, and to be able to now endorse it and to enhance that site through potentially the Public Spaces Legacy Program, with further information to come back to Council, I think is pivotal. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Delbo. Councillor Smith?
I'll just add two things. The application for grant funding, if successful, will construct pathways, seating, that sort of thing, which will make the park, Sculpture Park, a lot more accessible to everyone in the community, and I think that's a really important thing. The only other thing that I would add on a note of personal preference is that going forward, we might be looking for suitable sculptures from local artists as well as those we already have.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any further comment? Councillor Smith.
Yes, I'd just like to note that of recent times the sculpture park has been kept immaculate. The mowing has been exceptional. The place has looked a picture since Christmas, when it did get out of hand a bit like everything else. But of late, it's been immaculate, and I thank the staff.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Wright.
I think I'm surprised that Councillor Paul Smith's so observant. He can see past his nose occasionally, but anyway, this fits into the area up there of the Peace Precinct, and if we can do it right, and as Councillor Judy Smith said, to engage with local sculptors, and we have got some amazing local sculptors in the area, either with chainsaws or with clay and everything else. We will provide a very good attraction there, and it'll just be another feather in our cap for getting tourists to Cowra. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Right to reply, Councillor Delbo.
I think I'll just end this saying that this will be and continues to be a free place where our residents can go. Obviously, the affordability, cost of living at the moment is on everyone's nose and tip of tongue, and the fact that we were able to provide this space free to our residents and our visitors, and that it will be improved and built upon going forward could only be a good thing.
Thank you, Councillor Dormo. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we have to, the investments, recommendation of council note the investments and financial report. Somebody move that, please. Councillor West, thank you. Councillor Smith, thank you. Councillor West? Councillor Smith?
It's been discussed, so I'll just second the motion. Thanks.
Anyone else want to comment? No further comment. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The Cowra Waste Resource and Recovery Strategy, which is going on public exhibition. So that's on page 25 as well. Number 3.5. Councillor Judy Smith. Councillor Erin Watt. Councillor Smith.
This is a very detailed strategy, and it's a very important strategy, particularly given the focus of governments of all levels at the moment on the environment and waste recovery and usage. It will be on public exhibition if this is passed for 28 days. I do encourage everyone to have a look at it, at least parts of it. It takes us well into the future. It enables us to meet state government stipulations and regulations, and it contains still a number of options down the track for council to consider in terms of what we will do with the food organics and garden organics, the FOGO waste collection that will be mandated in part from next year, I believe, and for most of the community by 2030. So given that it will be impacting everyone in the community in a number of different ways, it is well worth having a look, seeing the direction that council thinks that we should go after many years, many months, and indeed over a year of planning and a lot of discussion. So I do encourage everyone to have their own say in the next month or so.
Thank you. Councillor Watt?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our Murph and our team in the Department of Infrastructure and Operations has been a leader in this space for some time, and this proposed plan takes that leadership position to a new level in attempt to create both a Murph ready for the future and a plan for Cowra Council to be a centre where we are dealing with problem waste and recycling and taking our role in that seriously. This strategy covers the development of a Murph master plan, a deep thought into how we work with our local businesses to engage them in recycling, and importantly, the need to appropriately deal with FOGO waste by 2025. Education for our community, improving services to our village, FOGO rollout to our constituents, and much more. It's been raised in this chamber in the last few months concerns around the contamination of yellow bins, and it's been an issue on the front of many of our minds for some time. We've been looking over time at the composition of our bins, and from seeing this, it's very clear that dealing with FOGO is a core part of us appropriately dealing with the waste collection we do for our constituents, and making sure that when we put waste into landfill, it's the smallest amount possible. I'd encourage my councillors to support putting this policy on draft on public exhibition, and encourage the community as well to take a look and have a think about what they are requesting of council and ways that we can be a leader in this space.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Any further comments? Councillor Wright? Councillor Downey?
Yep. Recently, I was listening to a podcast, and the UN University Institute for the Environment and Human Security recently came up with some new terms coined risk tipping points, and 5 of the 6 of those risk tipping points were referring to climate change. They address the fact that the frameworks and protocols that the world, including Australia, are putting into place are not working well in the struggle against climate change, or as quickly as we would have hoped in the last 30 years. One solution mentioned to be aspirational is a world without waste. They express the idea that we need to be good ancestors and realise that we have many generations of our families to come in the future. This strategy is a plan for action for Cowra Council to achieve a long-term plan taking us through to 2032. Targets set by other tiers of government will need to be met along the way, and this is the roadmap. This document, if it's passed tonight, will be placed on public exhibition, which means that we want the community's feedback. This is just one of the ways that council can engage our community, and I would encourage all residents to take a look. Education is another vital part of this strategy. Our community can be a part of the solution. It may only be a small step, but it is vital for the future. We can all make a difference.
Thank you, Councillor Downing. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I support this. I suppose living in the old school, one reason why we're going through this now, many houses in town used to have chickens and an incinerator, and the chickens ate the organic waste, and the incinerator burnt the papers and plastic and whatever else burnt, and there wasn't much rubbish to go to the landfill. But now we have this rubbish collection, and people they fill their bins responsibly, and it goes to the MRF, but they probably don't realise what's got to be happening at the MRF with the different bins and what's involved in trying to get recycling and make the benefit of everything that comes there to reduce what goes into landfill. And I think this is the start of an awareness to the whole community, how they're involved in the system. It's not just a council problem. And Councillor Downing mentioned education, and I did mention this strategy at the NRM committee last week, and the people who were there were very interested in it. And when I said there was 48% contamination in the yellow bin or the recycled material bin, a couple of people were surprised at how high it was at times, and they're keen to do something in the future as part of the education, and to tie it in with climate change is one thing, but it all adds up. We're getting more waste in our normal shopping experience, and we have to handle more. It's not wrapped up in a brown paper bag now when you've got your food, and that, which could be disposed of simply. It's often in plastic and so forth, and we're generating more waste than we ever have. And that's why this program is so essential. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further comments? Councillor Delbo.
Thank you very much. I strongly support this recommendation and encourage our community to read the plan and to provide comment back. This plan is for all of us. It's not just us in the room here tonight, but for our complete community. In our community strategic plan, we state that our aim is to position Cowra Shire as a centre of environmental excellence, and I believe this strategy is a leap in that direction. It covers a lot of ground, and these are just some of the highlighted areas of, and has been discussed tonight, the promotion and recycle education to tackle the contamination rate that we have at the moment and to bring that down. Moving on, zero contamination, there's mention of waste vouchers, 2 bulky goods collection days, identifying new markets for current wastes, and I can tell you that every time I get onto my Instagram account, there's a company called Brad who recycle absolutely everything you can think of, and I'd love to learn more about that. Upgrading our processing plant to handle the ongoing future needs for the site, bin audits to learn and to gain insight on our waste streams, FOGO as it's been mentioned tonight, and also tackling our business and commercial needs. A few years back, I was very, very fortunate, and it's definitely been a career highlight to meet Sir David Attenborough and to have lunch with him. And over lunch, I got to ask him some questions, and one of the ones I asked him was, what was the biggest global problem in his eyes? And he said plastic. We have to get a handle on it. In particular, water bottles was his big thing at the time, and how we can learn to either live without it or to be able to recycle it and reuse it in an environmental sustainable way. The other question I asked him was if he could be an animal, what would it be? He said a sloth. So, and gave reasons for that. I'm very proud that we've been able to get to this point. Obviously, there are certain pressures. We have to meet the New South Wales EPA Waste and Sustainable Materials Strategy 2041, and I believe this plan is a step in that direction.
Thank you, Councillor Delbo. I'd just like to say that I think we should ban packaging, and I've been on about it for the last 10 years, and I think we should just ban packaging, and that would solve a lot of these problems. But I do like to thank the staff for the strategy and hope that it will come back with some comments from our community to make it even better. Councillor Smith, would you like a right of reply?
Thank you. I'm certainly pleased that we no longer burn plastics, but instead are actively looking for ways to reduce their use. I too listened to a radio program not long ago which talked about recycling of plastic and said in effect that is not the answer, because each time you recycle plastic it degrades and it can't go through many such iterations. So that's another problem for us to grapple with. I'd like to thank all the councillors for their thoughtful and considered comments, not only now, but during the time that we have been discussing this. And I'd particularly like to thank Director Dirk Weimer and his staff. This strategy was supposed to have been formulated by a sustainability officer employed by council. Despite numerous advertisements, no suitable applicant was found, and so the staff did that work and did it extremely well alongside all the other work that they have to do. So I thank them. It's a great achievement.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. If there's no further comment, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? None. Carried. Thank you very much. Now we're up to the Cowra Material Recycling Facility proposal to extend the sorting lines storage area. I need a mover for that. Councillor Paul Smith, Councillor Erin Watt, Councillor Smith.
Yes, Mayor Fagan. This is just a proposal to make it a lot easier for us to store our recyclables when we haven't got the time to do them straight away. It gives us staff time to play with it a little bit rather than be restricted to what we can do and when we can do it. So it's an improvement, and I think it's also a display to the ratepayers of the town that we are trying our best to do recycling wherever we can. It's not always that easy, and I think I recommend this application because I think it's just another thing to make it a little bit easier for the staff and for people to appreciate that we do have problems recycling, and this might make it a bit easier.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While, as I think we've just discussed, the great preference would be to not have a large amount of plastic in the container deposit scheme, it's undoubtedly the situation that we're currently in. And I think the roles of previous council and the current council to make ourselves a space where we are taking on the business of processing those container deposit, the processing for container deposit scheme is a fantastic one for our commitment to recycling and our commitment to reducing our impact on the environment, as well as to providing financial benefit to our community. As we've just discussed, we are looking at a large-scale plan for the future of the MRF, but our team have identified this fairly urgent need to take this action, and I believe they've done so in quite a conscious way to identify the lowest risk area of our waste when we need to park some waste due to a peak in what's being presented, as I can imagine at Christmas or shortly after, perhaps after Australia Day, when there's a lot of beer cans coming in. So I'm very happy to support this, and I think it's a great step.
Thank you, councillor Watt. Any further comments? Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support this, and the reason we have to do this is that the CDS scheme has been more successful and bigger than what we originally thought and what we were told by our partner, Cowra, or wherever it is, Cleanaway. And you need logistics to be able to operate it smoothly and meet productivity. We've got to increase our productivity area, our productivity output, and to do this, we need to build these new sheds. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Wright. Any further comment? If that's not the case, I'll put the motion. Right, a reply. If that's the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. As against? Carried. Thank you. The development application 3.6, development application number 1182023 for Binney Creek Road, 2 general industrial sheds. Councillor West will move that. Councillor Judy Smith second that. Councillor West.
I wish to move an amendment, please.
No, you'd like to move an amendment. What would you like to move?
I move amendment that we defer this to the next monthly council meeting to get more information from the developer and what his intentions are for the buildings.
Do I have a seconder for that amendment? No seconder, then that lapses. We'll go back to the motion. Councillor West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This has come to council because there is a requirement or a request to change or to work around the DCP where it relates to reticulated water and sewer connections. And that's the sole reason it's with council. And this sort of land area, it makes perfect sense that we go down the path of providing that variation. I'd point out this is in RU5 land, agricultural land. This sort of development is permissible. There is no reason in the wide world that we should refuse this. There is no objections from any of the neighbours or part of that neighbour notification process. There are a number of conditions which do apply to things such as 138 certificates for the road to make sure that that's done correctly. The cut and fill also has to be part of the process that the developer will go through. So there's no reason why we should be refusing this at all, and it's not going to create any land use conflict. It does, as I think we said before, bring our mind perhaps to where we need to be considering some of the LEP and DCP amendments in the future, land use, but at the moment there is no reason to defer this or not to approve this. This council, I think, wants to be seen as being pro-development within reason. I see no reason why we shouldn't fully support this and approve it appropriately. It is for 2 sheds, 2 industrial sheds. Any further use of those sheds will come back to, you would assume, this council for consideration under their own development application processes. In terms of requesting, and I'll pick up Councillor Wright's point, in terms of requesting the developer come to provide more information, the developer has provided information to the satisfaction of staff in terms of the information required. I think it is not appropriate for us as a council to be expecting developers to come back and provide an explanation of what they may or may not want to do. That's not something we've done anywhere across the landscape, and I don't think it's something we should be starting to do. And I would think that at this juncture, any developer having that request imposed upon them might even feel that they're under a certain amount of pressure to provide answers to council, which they don't have to provide. It's a question we're not really entitled, as much as we might want to, not entitled to ask. But with that, I'll leave any further comments to my reply.
Thank you, Councillor West. Councillor Smith.
I think it's pleasing that we have someone with enough faith in the future of business and industry in this shire to build 2 large sheds and hope that someone will come along appropriately to use them. As Councillor West said, any business or industry that wish to operate out of those sheds would need, I would imagine, a development application which would come to council, and that's the appropriate time to consider usage.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Delbo?
Thank you. Through the chair, I wanted to thank Councillor Wright for raising an alternate motion tonight, and I can understand his cautious approach to a development like this. There are 29 conditions of consent in this development application. They are enormous sheds of just shy of 500 metres squared. We have not received any submissions of objection or concern with this development application. Knowing that it's, with the information that's in front of us tonight, it is zoned RU1 primary production and is permissible on the site. The concern that I suppose that I had is that it is located near a cemetery, and if you read what is permissible with consent, one of those is an extractive industry, and I just personally felt noise may be of concern. However, in saying that, these particular industries, whether it's a rural industry, a transport depot, a cellar door, or, as I said, an extractive industry, they are permitted with consent and with conditions put in place. And should something like that be put back in front of us going forward, I am confident that the conditions of consent would handle such concerns that we may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Delbo. Councillor Wright?
Yeah. Reluctantly, I speak against this. It's not because I don't want to support development in Cowra, but the applicant provided me with enough information in the director's report to question what he wants to actually do going forward. The first bit of information I got was from the director was he can do it on agricultural land, but if the sheds are any bigger than the 500 square metres, he would have to get the area rezoned before he could be complied. Now, I don't know if that's for one shed or when he builds two sheds, is he over the limit or not, but it was 500 square metres, I was told, that triggered that the area has to be rezoned. He also mentioned that our industrial land on Glenlogan Road hasn't got sewer or water. Well, I was of the belief there is water going up Glenlogan Road to the Murph site. It's not a big pipeline, but I think there is reticulated water there. But no doubt I will be wrong because I'm very seldom right. And to put a septic system in there, if it was needed when that land is subdivided, I think it's a lot easier to put a septic line there to make that land more useful, as it's next door to the waste treatment facility or the sewerage system. He sort of used that as an excuse that he could use his block of land out there because it hasn't got water and sewer, because that's the land down there now Heathfields hasn't got water and sewer. So I think we can argue that point away. The next thing, he showed a picture of the Collis Drive Avenue over there where all the shops, where all the industrial things are located. And that gave me the impression that he intends to build more of these out there. Now, he might have to go through a rezoning by then, but he's already started. And he's already started saying, a couple of councillors said to me, oh, but if a farmer built a hay shed, you would allow it. Yes, we would allow it because that's part of the farming operation. But if the farmer changed that hay shed into a metal workshop, he would have to get approval. Where this fellow's building an industrial shed to start with. He's not using it for his farm operation. It's going to be for industrial. He doesn't know what's going in there, but he's been stipulated the hours, and he knows how much noise is going to come out of it, and it won't affect anyone, which is a little bit strange to me. So, but the biggest point was, in my objection, is we are allowing a development in an area where we might want residential in the future, but we won't be able to have it if this goes ahead. And we have got $92,000 granted to us to do a review of where we want our residential growth areas. And but if we allow this, this might not be the best place for us to go further. And I'm also concerned about, it's a big excavation of over 120 to 40 metres excavation. There'll be a lot of cut and fill. He has to meet the standards of that, but that's going to change the water drainage on the place. And I'm just interested how the water is going to get across the Binney Creek Road with the other water that normally runs down there, but under condition 14, that is to be covered. And I hope it comes up that it is all right. That was the reason why I wanted to defer, not to stop it, but just to get a bit more insight in what the applicant is planning to do. If the applicant was planning to start his own business there, we would know right from the start of what we are approving. But we don't know how many trucks will be entering, exiting, if it's going to meet the road upgrade necessary and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further comment? Councillor Paul Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I find myself in agreement with everyone that's spoken tonight, which confuses myself to a degree. It's permissible on this site, so I feel we have no reason to reject it. But I do think that by passing it, we may be giving the applicant the indication that we're happy with it. And there I have a problem that as the future goes along, I don't know that that's where we want to have industrial sheds. They're permissible, and that's fine. The use of them we will have a say in, and I think that's the message we need to get across to the applicant, that he has to be careful building these sheds if he thinks that this, whatever he wants to put in them, will be granted, because it may not be. And I don't think that this application should be just passed off. Yes, that's fine. I think somehow we should be able to say to him, be very careful. This doesn't give you the right to put whatever you like in those sheds. How many people are going to want to rent a shed with no water? A septic will be fine for one or two sheds, but certainly there's been talk of more sheds there, and without sewerage, I can't see that there can be more sheds there. And I just can't see a business that I can think of. Certainly a hay storage would be fine, but once you start getting into a business that needs water, there isn't any, and other than what comes off the roof. And I just worry that this is not a wise thing. I'm not going to oppose it, but it concerns me greatly.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
Madam Chair, I wonder if we might just ask the Director just to clarify for councillors, it is not automatic that the use of the sheds is subject to a development application. So I might, if
Yep,
your
that's
indulgence
absolutely
allowed
fine.
the Director to clarify that.
Marissa? Yep.
Through the chair, the way this application would work is that if the proposed use, should it get consent granted today, should the intended use be that of general industrial, there is no requirement for them to lodge a DA for the continued use, for the use of those buildings. If it is light industrial use or heavy industrial, then yes, definitely you will need to have a separate development application lodged for those uses. But at the moment, we haven't been told what the intended use is. However, if it falls within the parameters of general industrial, then they can go and fit it out and commence
Without
Just a
DA.
question.
without a further development application.
Question, what's the difference between general industrial and light and heavy industrial?
Light industrial is a type of industrial development that has minimal impact on the amenity of the surrounding area. So it'd be things like car yards, very low impact developments.
heavy industrials are extractive industries, similar to what we have over here with the West Cast development. That would be classified as a development that creates noise, dust, potential impacts on the amenity of the surrounding area.
But what's general industrial?
General industrial is basically things like, motor mechanics, diesel mechanics, what we have for the majority of our areas.
Thank you, Director. So have we had any further comments or further comments about this application? Well, I'll go back to Councillor West for right of reply.
Thank you. And having heard all that, it doesn't really, I think, change any real appetite to have any further consideration on this particular recommendation. I understand there's some anxiety in certain councillors, and that's part of the democratic process. But I would remind you that this is before us because there is a seeking to vary the DCP in regards to reticulated water and sewer. That's it. In terms of future use of the land, something the LEP, DCP might look at down the track. It's not current. We can't use that as a reason to refuse. I understand what Councillor Delbo is saying, and I think what the Director just said should allay those fears in terms of what might crop up out there. This area is well protected from the Shire. It is close to the cemetery. It's also close to the Department of Agricultural land, which I would think is going to remain in that sort of remit for quite some time, and maybe council would buy some of that land down the track like we did 20 years ago to extend the local cemetery as well. But there is nothing in this that we should be refusing this DA for. It's been properly assessed, it's been lodged appropriately, and I think we should just be approving it and moving on. And with respect, I think we need to understand to some extent what our role in these sorts of matters is in terms of approving or refusing DAs, and acknowledging that our staff probably have a number of years university, tertiary education knowledge behind them. Maybe have 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years on the tools, and I won't speculate how long on the tools, understanding the industry and the job. So I do rely on their input. Having been in this place for quite some time now and seen a lot of DAs come through, I can't see one reason why we want to not approve this. And it is about development in our Shire, not at any cost, but it is about development in our Shire. One of the criticisms that comes at council regularly, unfairly, is that we're anti-development. I think this is an area where we can actually continue to say the local economy is going well, people want to invest in Cowra. We need to be cautious as the holders, if you like, of the environment, the total environment, not just the national environment, but the total environment. We're the caretakers, but we should also be sensibly managing the process we go forward and encouraging development. I think this is one we should be supporting and encouraging.
Thank you, Councillor West. Now I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. Councillor, I think she's staying out for this one, no? Okay. Thank you. Get Councillor Watt. She's coming. So we have development application in Kite Street, 2 to 4 Kite Street. So could I have a mover and a seconder for this DA, please? Somebody? Councillor Delbo, Councillor Smith, Paul Smith. Councillor Delbo.
Thank you. Through the chair, we have a development application here that is covering a little bit of ground. It is an existing business in town that has been around for quite some time, and they're wishing to rectify a few issues associated with the site and to get development consent with the use of land controlled by council and state government. They're also applying for continued use of the site and to modify the site to ensure environmental risks are minimised. Just bear with me with my notes here for one moment. Council has reached out to Transport for New South Wales and the New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment to ensure that they give their concerns and approval for the site, for this development application. The DPE were contacted in regards to controlled activity under the Water Management Act of 2000, and as a result, in the conditions, the 34 conditions listed, from number 1 to number 5 deals with that. And then the Transport for New South Wales was the licence and landowner consent, and that is from condition 7 to 11. It is permissible on the site that they wish to do, the activities that they wish to conduct here. In regards to council, a thorough review has been conducted in our records to find that we have no existing formal authorisation of the use that is of council land, and that is covered under recommendation number 15 in the conditions of consent. I suppose it's coming in front of us tonight also, in that is around that the environmental risks are minimised, and they have suggested ways to manage their site to improve their environmental footprint. The site is located right beside the Lachlan River in the riparian zone. That would, normally be an area of great sensitivity and vegetated as well as it can be to ensure that the banks of the Lachlan River are stable and providing a home for all the inhabitants, animals of that area. It's in front of us tonight. It's a large site. It's 2.9 hectares. As I said, the business has been in operation since 1970. My concerns that I had with this have been addressed in the report, and I will leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Dilwell. Councillor Paul Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Fagan. This is basically to tidy up what has been a business that's been there for 50 years. The beauty of the fact that we are now approving it, it comes with conditions which must be met, and I think it's a tidying up process that's been needed for a long time. It's been a lot of work, not just by our staff, certainly they've done enough work, but by various government departments to get all this through wasn't easy. And again, I commend the staff for the amount of work they've done on this. It does tidy it up. It brings it into line with what it has to be. And I think it's great for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to be able to support Councillor Downing and Councillor Dilbo, and Councillor Paul Smith. Both of them are completely correct. It is tidying up an issue that's been around for quite some time, and there's been a lot of hard work going into making that happen. So you're quite right in raising that. The only comment I make about Councillor Dilbo's is that this is, yes, you're quite correct, close to sensitive an area in terms of Lachlan River, and there have been issues before, so I'm sure that the condition of consent will apply, and I'm sure that people will be watching it. That said, this is where the community and council and other departments have worked very closely to try and make this happen, to resolve all the associated issues. I would reflect there is probably one note of tinge of sadness in some of this, is that one of the owners or one of the principals in this operation passed away a few months ago, and doesn't get to see the hard work and the hope they had to making this come to fruition. Is obviously not here to see it, so I guess we move on, but just make that observation of the chamber. There is a sad tinge to it.
Thank you, Councillor West. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I've got two questions. First question, condition 15, they need to obtain written agreement or any associated permits, leases or purchases required from Cowra Council for the use of their land or road reserves. Is that done by delegation, or has that got to come back to council?
Larissa, it talks about the agreements between council and that with the lots that we own.
Through the chair, I'd have to take that on notice. I'm not 100% sure how the lease agreements are operated with.
The second question refers to condition 30, applicant must not continue the occupation or use of the landscaping material supplies until a whole or partial occupation certificate has been issued from the principal certifier. This was asked at the information meeting. Does that mean that this part of the business will be shut down for some time until the partial or something can be obtained? And that was the same question regards to the council permits, because they've got to happen before anything else can happen. So I'm just wondering the procedure.
Through the chair, these conditions were supposed to be rectified prior to tonight's council meeting. The condition will be modified to reflect the ability for them to continue operating as is. However, they will be required to obtain a whole occupation certificate from council. The other conditions in the consent that also reflect that were supposed to be changed have not been, and they will be changed prior to the issue of the actual conditions of consent.
Thank you, and I support the development application. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a modification of this DA. Is that acceptable to the mover and the seconder? It will be modified prior to its being.
I think, Madam Chair, unless we can get the specifics of that articulated here this evening, my recommendation would be to defer this until you get that.
That would be my my reading of it, that we have to, because they haven't been changed between the committee meeting and this council meeting, then we will need to have a modification which would come to us. I mean, this business has been going on for 50 years. They're not closing down. I don't think there's a huge rush. So I would recommend that we...
I'm happy to move an amendment that we defer the matter.
Thank you, Councillor West and Councillor Watt.
Till the first available meeting.
First available meeting. Thank you, Councillor West and Councillor Watt. And we will receive these this DA again with the changes, modifications in those consents to allow this business to continue operating prior to the construction certificate being issued.
And
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Speaking
Yes.
to the
Speaking to
amendment, I'd suggest that the Mayor may wish to work on getting a special council meeting prior to the next committee meeting, facilitate the meeting matter.
Councillor Watt seconded. What do you think? Is that you're okay with
That's
that?
acceptable to me. Thank you.
Okay.
The
So
question that'd be, you wouldn't be able to organise a meeting until you got all the ducks in place for what they want to do, wouldn't they?
that's correct, Councillor Watt. We'll make sure that we have everything organised before we hold another meeting. Now we're debating. Councillor West has spoken about his amendment to this, and Councillor Watt has agreed to that. Is there any further speakers to the amendment, which is to defer it? Councillor Downey?
I think the deferral probably does help because that was one of the questions we had last week, and we need to address that because this business has been operating for 50 years and we don't want to close it down when we're actually, this whole DA is for it to stay open and function as is.
Thank you, Councillor Downey. Any further comment? If not, write a reply, Councillor West. Doesn't get a right reply.
You don't get a right to reply
I'll
to
put
an
the
amendment.
I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now the motion that we defer it. So do you want to put the motion or do you want to comment on it? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, and well brought up, Councillor Wright. And unfortunately didn't transfer across. Okay, the development application number 7023, Grenfell Road, Cowra, Lot 9, community entitled Council Watts left the room, page 37. And do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor West, Councillor Downing. Would you like to speak, Councillor West?
This has been recommended for approval. It went through committee meeting. I think everybody's quite in favour of this. There were a few questions asked, but I'm quite happy to let the debate unfold and use my right of reply if necessary, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Downing?
Yeah, I'll just say this DA is for a community title subdivision in West Cowra. The lot sizes and the location make this site a more reasonable DA than the last one that we saw before council in Tokyo Terrace, in my opinion. 3 neighbours submitted objections around water runoff and sewerage questions, and they've all been adequately addressed by the developer in consultation with our staff, in my opinion. 30 conditions have been applied to this DA, and this is a deferred commencement DA until condition 2 is undertaken with regards to sewerage. So I'm satisfied that this will be a great addition to Cowra and go some way to addressing our need for housing. One point that I made last meeting was to mention the fact that the objectors all noted the small window of time from when letters were processed and up to the time of delivery. And I'd suggest again that this be looked at by staff and processes put in place to support the great work that our planning staff are doing. Our council is I'm going to say multi-million-dollar business, service business, and that is not too far-fetched to think that we might move into more professional ways of dealing with our customers, updating contact details, improving mailing systems, and emailing our core business aims for many of the companies in 2024, and I don't see why our council should be any different. Objectors should note that they can still contact staff if they have concerns, even after the time frame, if the time frame is tight.
Thank you, Councillor Downing. Any further comments? Right of reply, Councillor West, you decided not to.
Look, this is I think very much very easy to approve, and doesn't need me to speak at all to it. I just want to touch on one point that Councillor Downing has said, is that we have this issue, and we've talked about it before, where we try to get the notification process right and get it out. We're relying on another organisation, Australia Post, which is not necessarily the most speedy. Now, there are other mechanisms we can use, and I think in the future we will use. That said, I don't buy that we are not professional. If we are professional and we get it out, and we know that anybody who is caught up in this process of not having ample access to providing a response does get given the opportunity to still comment and respond to any of the concerns they have. So I think it's a matter of us as a council also working with the staff to make sure we can find some mechanism which works for everybody. And I think until we get everybody's email address, which will make it much easier, we start picking out emails. That will be the way to go. But till we get there, I think we've just got to continue to work to be conscious of the need for the community to be informed, and I think we all agree with that. They need to be informed. But that's it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor West. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Watt, could we? We're now to the General Manager's Report, 4.1, page 44. When Councillor Watt returns. Page 44, the 2024 meeting dates, and these have been changed because of the date of the September election, local government election. So I have a mover, Councillor Judy Smith, Councillor Cheryl Downing. You'd like to speak, Councillor Smith?
We need to rescind the resolution that was passed last November because, given the date of the council election being the 14th of September, by the 30th of September there will be no declared councillors. It will take until possibly the 3rd of October for the state government to declare the results of the election. So therefore the new proposal is that there will be no meetings at all in September, given particularly that early September council is in caretaker mode and can't make big decisions, but that instead there will be 2 council meetings in October instead of a general committee meeting and a council meeting, as is the normal process. And the first business at the first council meeting would be to elect a new mayor and deputy mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Cheryl Downing. No. Anyone else want to
Yeah,
comment?
I got a
Councillor
question.
Wright.
I support the need for it and everything, but this is a public a public document, and I would have thought the second one, which drops September out, we would have been better off if we had September there and just put local government elections there so people know what is going on. But I'm just in a pedantic mood. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further comment? If not, right reply, Councillor Smith. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. The delivery program that for 22-23 to 25-26 and operational plan on page 48. 6-month review. Councillor West, moved to Councillor West and seconded Councillor Judy Smith. Thank you very much. You're working very hard tonight. Councillor West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just probably not a great deal to add, but to highlight that this was subject to some considerable conversations last week within our information meeting, and council went through this quite thoroughly. A number of issues were raised, a number of clarifications were sought. But I think all in all it points to the fact that this council has a very broad church of activities, the majority of which we're carrying out very well, some which we're carrying out well, and maybe the odd one we're not carrying out as well as any of us would probably like to see happen. But nonetheless, we're a very broad church, and I think council is doing a great job, and I would commend the members of the community who are interested in what council does and want to have a few pot shots at what council's not doing. They might look at this program and just understand exactly what a broad church of activities council is involved with in providing services on a daily basis to our entire community across the landscape of this beautiful shire.
Thank you, Councillor West. Councillor Judy Smith.
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Now we've got the quarterly budget review on page 103. If any would, I need Councillor Watt and Councillor Paul Smith. Thank you. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to move the recommendation that we adopt the second quarterly budget review and see a significant surplus sitting here. We continue to be in a good financial position, which is very important as we need to be putting away some funds for significant infrastructure going forward. We would note that the operating performance ratio is some significant amount lower than the previous 2 years, but I imagine part of this has come forth because we've received quite significant funding in relation to flood recovery, which is also quite obvious as you look through the report, where there's probably more significant variations to our planned budget than there would be normally. But all in all, looking particularly good, and happy to move for this to be adopted, and particularly note and accept the recommendations to change the budget based on particularly variables of grant funding for flood damage and an increase in interest rates.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Councillor Smith.
Simply, I agree with Councillor Watt, but it's just basically our budget's in very good order. We're running under budget. As Councillor Watt says, there's a lot of grant money floating around in there, but basically we're going all right.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any further comments? Councillor Watt. Right.
Yeah, budgets are a necessary evil. You've got to have you got to have a plan of what you might be going to do and how you're going to do it and what's going to cost you. But just looking to that, staff have to put in what they've done and everything for the period, and then we can report in your, as with water in the second quarter, it's $900,000 down, and in the first quarter it was 3.3 million up, and when we started the year we only expected a $1,000 surplus. So staff have to have to be supported in what they're doing, and at times things improve when they least expect it, or they could deteriorate when they least expect it. But they've got to have the confidence of management and our council that they will continue to supply the service we need at the cheapest operational cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further comments? Councillor West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quite happy to support the recommendation and the comments of Councillor Watt and Councillor Smith. They're both correct as usual. The surplus, of course, does vary, and budgets are vital. They're very important. And I do support Councillor Wright's comment in terms of that we need to support our staff and demonstrate that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor West. No further comments, Councillor Watt.
Very briefly, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Wright's comments, I think, give us a good insight into why the recommendation for our late report tonight is to highlight the real difficulty for councils to make plans based on the variability of income we have and our high dependence on grant funding, which, as we can note here, only 6 months into our plan, we were not able to predict what we were going to receive in that and plan adequately around it. I'm sure everyone would understand there is always going to be some variability in a budget, but when you're looking at the responsibilities as broad as a local council, a full service local council, such as Cowra Council, it's essential that we do what we can to get more consistency in the finances coming in and out. And I think some strong conversations with IPART in the review would be a key part to that, as well as I've seen the call from ALGA for the federal government to follow through on their commitment to increased financial assistance grants, which hopefully we will see come through soon. But regardless of all of those challenges, we continue to be doing well, and congratulations to all of our team for making sound financial decisions for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Now I have the West Cowra Channel update report on page 136.
What about
The proposed pipes along at Cross Roads, water drainage and irrigation policy first.
That's page 120, huh?
That's page 120. It's number 6. Sorry, I jumped ahead. 6.1. So I need a mover and second. Councillor Judy Smith, Councillor Era Watt. Thank you. Judy?
Thank you. This policy has been out on public exhibition for a month, and during that time there were no comments from the public, so I'm presuming that everyone is happy with the policy as it is. The aim of the policy... Oh, I thought I'd done something wrong. You sounded like my husband. The aim of the policy is to provide security and safety for public roads, verges and associated areas in case of any problems with private pipes that are going to be put under or alongside such roads, and to indemnify council and therefore the public from any costs that might arise from the need to survey those areas or from any damage that might inadvertently occur. So as I said, there were no public submissions, so I move the adoption of the...
Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies to Councillor Judy Smith for my interruption. While I'm very supportive of our fantastic news today to get $3.7 million for a new community childcare, this sound of my throat is a result of childcare and the fun that you have with that.
So they need a pipeline there, do they? They need a pipeline?
And Councillor Watt. Councillor Wright.
So as my colleague Councillor Smith noted, no submissions have been received for this proposal, so I'm very happy to second the recommendation that we adopt this important policy, and again thank the staff for going the extra mile after identifying that this was an issue we didn't have a policy around, and taking the time to go and talk to councils who have similar issues and who've developed those policies, and making sure that we have one targeted to our community, and would encourage council to support this, as we have in a number of items tonight. This is about pulling together a policy around something that is already happening, that we don't have a clear policy around, to make sure that we're providing clear guidelines for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Any further comments? if that,
Yeah,
councillor Wright.
this is a policy we need because up until a few years ago, it probably wasn't needed. And it's all eventuated through the taking away irrigation rights from the land and having them separate. And some farmers or industry people have found out that they can buy a water licence and pump it somewhere to another block of land that wasn't even near the river, and they want to use the road verge or something to put this pipeline. And without a policy, that can't be done, and we could not recover any expense incurred by the person putting the pipeline there, and because we had no policy to say who's responsible for what. So therefore I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Smith, would you like right of reply? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. West Cowra Channel Update Report now, and page 136. Councillor Smith, Councillor Watt, thank you. Councillor Smith?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Fagan. This was discussed at our last meeting and explained exceptionally well by the director, I thought. It's a complicated area over in West Cowra, where the water goes, where it goes in normal times, where it goes in flood times, what we can do about it. It's not easy, it's very complicated, and I thank the director for his explanation of it all. Obviously, as time goes on, this will be a living document. It'll change from time to time as we discover more areas of where the water goes, what we can do with it. But I think it's a start. It's an update. It's not a full report of where we're up to, and I thank the director for it.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Watt?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would very much agree with my colleague Councillor Paul Smith that this is a complex situation. I think anyone who's taken the time to read through this report, which summarises many, many reports over the years, can see that our team have done a lot of work on this, and there's still a lot to go. So, as noted in this report, modelling conducted in 2023 identified that the 2020 strategy would have adverse impacts downstream, as the plan would push stormwater flows to a system which does not have the capacity for additional flows. So very much in support of us conducting some further modelling to identify if this new plan will have downstream implications. Should be noted that the options put forward here are not intended to stop flooding in peak stormwater events, but to minimise the time that these areas remain flooded after a flooding event. And it would also note that this work has already been budgeted for under the West Cowra Drainage Improvements, Walker Street to Grenfell Road section, and therefore there are no additional budgetary implications for conducting this analysis.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Any further comments? Yes, Councillor Smith.
Yes, this is one of the most complicated areas and complicated procedures that I have dealt with in council. I think it's been, studies have been ongoing and updated for nearly a quarter of a century, and each study adds to council's knowledge, and some of those studies negate what was seen to be gospel in the previous study. So we're for those for whom this is an enormous problem, we are working on it to the best of our ability. We've spent a lot of money on a lot of studies, but it's really important that we get it right. There's no point in our spending further ratepayers' money on building detention basins, etc., if they are not going to work as we hope, and or if they make the problem worse further downstream. So I fully support the further analyses that have been mentioned in the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Paul Smith, right, any further comment? would like right of reply? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We're up to the review of the Cowra Development and Control Plan requirements, Glen Logan Industrial Release Area. Dirk gets all the exciting ones. Councillor Paul Smith, Councillor Bill West, Councillor Smith.
Yes, this is a policy we have to change because we live in different times. There was a time when freight came on the rail. Some of you might remember that. And then it was picked up and carried to where it went, or it was picked up and put on the rail. These days, road transport is the normal mode of delivery and reception. Along with the fact that we now use the road for this comes modification to the vehicles that have been assigned to do this said carrying. We started off with semi-trailers and they took a certain amount of time to turn. Then we went to B doubles. Now we have A doubles that are starting to want to use our roads. And this change will allow for the fact that keeping these bigger vehicles on the sealed surface without overtaxing the people that do the subdivision to supply land that was not going to be used for such purpose. So I think this is a great document. It's just one that comes along with the times. As we come into times, no doubt someone will come up with a truck or a road train. I don't know what they'll come up with next, but when they do, we'll have to deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously fully support Councillor Smith. This is an area where council needs to adopt some changes to that road design down there. It will probably come as a cost because council will have to put some of the bill of this, but that's not inappropriate because that is an area that is growing, expanding dramatically. Anybody who I referred earlier to them, I think there's a number of people who think that the community of the Shire is going nowhere. Anybody should go for a drive down Nangar Street, Pridham Street and have a look at the tremendous development that's taken place down there in the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years. Council needs to move with that and work with that, and I think this is the appropriate way to be doing it. So again, I acknowledge the comments of my colleague, but also the work of the director in bringing this forward to our attention and hopefully to resolve it. Thank you.
Any further comments? Right of reply.
A question, please. This sort of stops at the Glen Logan Road, Pridham Street intersection. Do we need to widen the road any going north on the Glen Logan Road in the future to help the industrial area there to handle these trucks and things, or that'll come with if a DA is lodged?
Through the chair, the amendments proposed are to the existing section of the development control plan, so it addresses all the road widths that were put in the initial development control plan to service the industrially zoned land in that area. If that makes sense, like so, it doesn't. I don't propose any.
Okay, any further questions? Right of reply, Paul. Councillor Smith.
Just that this is a start, and I hope that in the future we have a lot more of these problems where people want to make developments. I think it'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you to Councillor Smith. This is really a change to our DCP, so we require a show of hands for this. So if I could have a show of hands, all those in favour, those against, carried. Thank you very much. Now we have the development application Rothbury Road, and I will leave the chair and leave it up to my spare mayor.
Mayor Fagan has left the room. As the Deputy Mayor, I'll go on to 7.1, Development Application 842023, Lot 311 on Rothbury Road, a dwelling lodged by Currajong Proprietary Limited. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Judy Smith. Councillor Bill West, seconder. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. This has been to the Department of, what is it? Planning, Housing and Infrastructure. One has to keep up with the new iterations of each department. because it contains a requested variation to the LEP and council can't consent to such variation. Council did support the application and the department, secretary of the department has agreed to it. The reason was that the area of land, being 2.45 hectares, was too small for a house, I think that's right. So this is not the first time such a request has come to council, and it reflects changing concepts about the way that land, which has primarily been used for viticulture in the past, should now be used. So I recommend acceptance of the recommendation.
Councillor West.
Thank you, the Deputy Mayor, and I'm sure the Councillor Downing wants to speak on this one. I'm sorry. Just fully concur with Councillor Smith on this particular matter and the comments that she's made. This has come to council previously. Obviously, we did make an approach to the department to receive that variation, which have now come back and supported. So I think it shows how the process works. The process does work and can work, and this is supported by my colleague, our colleagues, and that these people can get on with doing what they want to do with their dreams and hopes. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Downing? No? No. Sure. Anybody else? Councillor Wright.
The previous two speakers have covered it pretty well, and I think this will be an area that, if we do this revision of residential land with this $92,000 grant, that we will need to look at, because it's stated there that to build a house on this area you needed 100 hectares because it's in farming land, and you only got to look around to see what other houses have been built there and on smaller lots, and it becomes one side of the line you can do something, the other side you can't do something, and I think this has worked out not too bad with this decision, and I think we just need to keep an eye on what we need to do in the future.
I'd just like to say that whilst this piece of ground is too small to have a housing on it currently, it's a lot bigger than all the ones beside it. So it does comply, and I think it's common sense that we go forward with this. So I'll need a show of hands. Write a reply. Councillor Smith. Not required. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Can we have Councillor Fagan back in, please?
Okay, we're up to the late report, which is in another document.
Madam Mayor, just before you ask for a mover, can I just apologise and draw your attention to an error in the actual report itself? There are only 7 terms of reference. The one I've numbered there is item 6 is actually a continuation of item 5. So just apologies for that error and note the correction.
That's page 4 in the new separate document under late reports.
Happy to move, Madam
The
Mayor,
LG
when
Hub.
everybody catches up. No, we'll come back to it.
We haven't finished the confidential matters, but is everyone all right? We've got Councillor West moved it, Councillor Judy Smith seconded it, and comments, Councillor West.
Yeah, I think this is one that the council, obviously we haven't had a chance to discuss it or to really get our heads around it. At a cursory glance, it concerns me and frustrates me to some extent, because it appears to me the questions or the terms of reference are really predicated on the fact that there's something wrong with local government and it's all local government's fault. And I think that I must say, I've been sitting in this chamber for 25 years, and to use another word, 25 years, that continually happening is just a complete frustration and annoyance. The biggest issue is local government has, and okay, there's some councils that get it wrong from time to time, I know that, and I'm not defending that, but the biggest issue we've had is I parts rate pegging. Biggest issue we've had is constraints on our income capacities. Whilst we're getting more and more red tape on a daily basis and getting hit with things such as the Rural Fire Service Emergency Services Levy, that anybody like me renewing their insurance at the moment is going to find the significant increases in that component of the insurance, well above rate pegging, I might point out. So I think that we need to be trying to work our way through as a collective to come up with a couple of other suggestions in terms of what they might put in the terms of reference and a little bit around the role that rate pegging actually has an impact that has on our bottom line and our management, and also the cost shifting that goes on. So I think there's those issues we should be pointing the finger back at the government and making sure they understand that they won't accept it perhaps, but we still make the point and the observation to them. Otherwise, this appears to be a little bit of a snow job on our communities to some extent, to accept the fact that many of their councils and councillors are not performing appropriately. And I think that is really, to be quite frank, insulting on a large section of our community across the landscape of this beautiful state, not just Cowra.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Smith. Councillor West.
We're both good looking. We're both good looking, Councillor Wright, but not that.
Councillor West, thank you very much for your comments. Councillor Smith, Judy Smith.
I would add that it seems to me that this document and the terms of reference have the point of view that not only is council in need of direction and guidance and not entirely trustworthy, councils I should say, but that further increasing the administrative and regulatory burden on councils will fix this problem. I disagree. It will further take time and money away from what councils need to be doing in terms of servicing their citizens. So I agree with Councillor West that the draft terms of reference have a definite slant. I fear very much that no matter what we write or say, those terms of reference won't change, or rather the ideology behind them won't change. But nonetheless, I think we need to do our best and have some skin in the game where we can.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any further comments? Councillor Paul Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Fagan. I look at this with the same scepticism that I do a lot of things that come from the government. I feel that we'll all put in submissions. They'll tick the box that says they consulted the councils and they'll make the decision they're going to make in the first place. The issue number 4, where the councils, both councillors and staff, have the financial capability and capacity to meet current and future needs of communities. It's almost insulting, isn't it? It's insulting to Michael, I would have thought. And I'm sure it's a box ticking exercise.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any further comments? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor Fagan. I'm taking an unusual, different slant to this. I've been intimidated by a lot of people, but this doesn't intimidate me. They're coming out to talk to us, and I did listen to one of the, I don't know if it was the Minister for Local Government or something on the radio, and he said there's certain parts of reporting by council, and he mentioned the depreciation that we have to put in our thing, to put in our report of our financials, which is not really relevant. It's a depreciation is usually used for a taxation part of a financial audit, and we don't use it for a taxation benefit, and whether it needs to be reported on infrastructure that will last 50 to 100 years might not be necessary, and therefore would put a council in a better financial basis. And I think rate pegging does create some constraints, but I think councils need some constraints, and we need to tell them how we can, what things we shouldn't be paying for in running a care account, to run Cowra Council. Like, we got significant upgrades in sewer. We want to put sewer into a new area, and due to regulations and everything, we're looking at a $60 million bill for West Cowra. There's no council can wear that sort of expense to put that infrastructure in, which provides a better recycling, I suppose you'd say, of waste from a community to go into our waste treatment plant, and so we're not upsetting soil structure and drainage with overflowing septic systems. So if we can get the state government to offer a bit of the GST income they get back into to finance these infrastructure things, we wouldn't need to increase our rates to such a high level. And I don't want to be and I can't see it. We should be in a council where, like Bathurst, they wanted to increase it by 30%, I think, or was it 100% over 3 years, 30% a year? Anyway, it was some very high figures, but all they're doing is getting more money to do the same thing, and ratepayers haven't got the beauty of saying, well, I'm not going to pay rates in Cowra, I'll pay rates in Grenfell, but Cowra can supply the service. And so I think we need to provide the feedback to these people on what we think we shouldn't be paying for, and what the state government should be paying for, and they could use the GST component of their federal government money to help do this. And they need to know that we're not a city council where we can increase numbers of people to get things, and roadways are supplied by the Transport of New South Wales, and all those links there, we don't benefit from it. So I think we take this as a positive move to provide the information that we feel is the problem. And it might be like Councillor Paul Smith said, that they've already made the decision, they're just going through the motions. But if we don't put in what we think, we're letting our community down by not pushing for a better outcome from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. With that in mind, I would suggest that the General Manager is calling for any feedback by the 11th of March. And so if we could get back to him, that would be great. I would suggest that depreciation, the emergency services level, rate pegging, and the increasing FAG grants are at the top of the list for everybody. And that's probably what we will make sure happens, and we'll give them that feedback. There is a couple of ways of doing it, but General Manager is going to pull it together, and if you get back to him by the 11th of March, that would be really great. Any further comments?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Delbo.
Through the chair, I think it's important that local governments continue to be united on this front. I'm going to agree with Peter Wright in looking at this as a positive step going forward. They're asking some of the right questions that I'm just looking through what the terms of reference is about. And should we all come together and sing from the same hymn sheet, then surely we must make some waves in this space. And the truth will continue to come forward. And it won't take another, 25 years, did you say, Councillor West, to make improvements in this space?
Thank you, Councillor Delbo. Right of reply, Councillor West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we might always sing, come by or something around the room. Yeah. Look, I think everybody's on the same page with this, and I don't disagree that the standard we walk past is the standard we accept. This is one of those areas where I think we should draw a bit of line in the sand, at least put back what we think. And but having said that, it doesn't take away from my comments that this is really designed to be critical of council, and that we're on the back foot in terms of how we're going to go about it. And I picked up that point also that Councillor Paul Smith picked up about whether councillors or staff have the financial capacities, and I just thought that was just an amazing comment to be made around local government sector. Certainly there are some people who aren't, but there's a lot of people in this room who are very competent and capable people. And I look at the state government who's providing this report, and I think they've got a few in their ranks that aren't that capable or competent, so they shouldn't be picking on us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor West. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we're going to the confidential motions without, are there any urgent motions without notice? Yes, we're back to the other agenda, the agenda on, yeah. So we need to go to confidential matters, page 256. And it is a request for tender. We need to close down the audio. I will now take a motion to close the meeting to the public to consider the following confidential reports. 10.1, request for tender 17, tree trimming and removal services within Cowra Shire 23-26. And item 11.1, request for tender cabin replacement caravan park. These matters are to be considered to be confidential under section 10A 21D of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of these matters in an open meeting would on balance be contrary to the public interest, as they deal with commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. And item 11.2, Crown Land Management Park Crown Reserve 703 lot 7301 DP, an Aboriginal land claim 37042. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A to H of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an opening meeting would on balance be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with information concerning the nature and location of a place or an item of Aboriginal significance on community land. Mover and seconder, Councillor Downing, Councillor Smith. Thank you. All those in favour? Passed. Carried. Thank you.